you know the name of every Buffy episode as long as you just give you a number. So we're gonna test you.
I hope I'm right.
Hi and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your literary hype woman, and today's author conversation is a really, really fun one. You've probably seen this author's book all over social media. I got connected with Julie Soto at her tour stop in St. Louis when she was releasing her new book, Forget Me Not. And this book is so good. Like, it's really hard to believe this is a debut. Like, it's really hard to believe. This sucked me in so hard, so fast. I kind of forgot about life for a little while. So it was such a joy to get to talk to Julie about this book and her friendship with someone you might recognize. You're probably going to recognize one of her very good friends. So without any further ado, here is my conversation with Julie Soto.
Well, welcome to Literary Hype. It is so exciting to have you on now that your book baby, Forget Me Not, is out in the world.
She's out of the body. She has made her grand debut.
So for anyone who hasn't already been spammed with this on their social media feed, can you introduce us to what Forget Me Not is all about?
Forget Me Not is about Amma, who is a young up-and-coming wedding planner who has the opportunity of a lifetime to work on a celebrity wedding. There's an influencer who is getting married to a girl from her hometown, and they want to have their wedding in Sacramento. And so Amma gets hired on to do the wedding, and it's such an honor and it's such an opportunity for her career. But the only catch is that the couple has already decided on their florist, who is Elliot, the man whose heart she broke 2 years ago. So it is co-workers and forced proximity and primarily grumpy sunshine and second chance romance.
You really do hit all of the tropes with this one. What was it like kind of crafting this story, knowing that you're pulling in all of these different tropes and trying to balance it out and make it actually work with so many different
Yeah, I wasn't even conscious of doing some of the tropes. Sometimes when someone tags me in a thing and like lists the tropes in the book, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's in there. Like I never thought of this as a second chance romance because I am not even personally a reader of second chance romance. I'll always read a good one, obviously, but it's not one of those ones that I'm seeking out like I seek out enemies to lovers. And enemies to lovers slips in there because it's my favorite, and I don't think I could ever write anything where they didn't get off on the wrong foot in the first place. Because I just find it so much more enticing. And Grumpy Sunshine is so prevalent in the book, and it's one of the ones that people point to the most for the tropes in the book. And like, I guess I was aware that it was Grumpy Sunshine. Like, I knew he was a grump, but I also just thought of him as like socially inept, which comes off as mean, or for women comes off as resting bitch face, or it comes off as something else. And so I was more leaning into social insecurity, and it does come off as someone who grunts and doesn't say much. And it was my Roy Kent dream come true.
We love Roy Kent. We really
do. Yeah.
So in the way that you structured this book, we do have Elliot telling the past segment, and we get his perspective on that. And that kind of plays into the grumpy part. Talk a little bit about the decision to have him being a voice instead of it being just a Amma's perspective book.
I actually was starting to think that, Elliot may come off as truly not someone that desirable if we didn't hear his side of things or his voice. And so I knew early on that I wanted to probably include his point of view based on just how I was understanding the differences between fanfic and traditional publishing, and how I was going to be approaching my style. And so I knew I wanted his point of view, but I was glad to land on the idea that his point of view would be the past chapters where we see how they came together. So he is not necessarily giving us his commentary on the current day and what it's like to be broken up with her 2 years, 2 years later. He's giving his side of things from when they were falling in love, and all of that will hopefully inform what you think of him during Emma's point of view. So that was kind of how I approached it. I knew we probably needed his point of view. And so when I landed on how to do it in a way that I really liked and still kind of had some narrative tension, that's I was glad for it.
What was the biggest challenge for you in writing a dual perspective book?
Trying to figure out Emma's headspace in his point of view chapters, because in her point of view chapters, you get that she has a lot of regret, but not necessarily what she was feeling back then. So I think one of the hardest parts was trying to get her to bring up the past without giving away what the past was in her point of view, and then in his point of view, giving him, not letting him in on exactly what's going on in her head, while also letting the reader in on what's going on in her head. Like, he misunderstands her a couple of times in ways that maybe the reader would go like, no, that's not what she's saying. And so trying to get that balance in there without making him look like he's not easily able to comprehend people.
This book starts out with a hilarious list of wedding rules for a wedding planner. Talk a little bit about crafting this list from this wedding planner's perspective, because it's hilarious.
Yeah. So I have a friend who is used to be a wedding planner's assistant. So I kind of went to her with like, what would be 4 or 5 good rules for this. And she's also the one who's already like railed against me in fan fictions for adding a gazebo wedding. So it was almost like a little call out to the fan fiction community that I'm from, and to her, to make like number 5 about like talk them out of the gazebo. But I feel like Emma starts the book giving you this kind of like list of rules because she feels like she has broken rules in the past. And that's kind of a thing that keeps coming back for her, is that, well, now I have my own rules and I don't break them. And then of course she says, talk them out of the gazebo is her 5th rule. And she's not done that successfully. So she's already breaking that rule. But as far as like the list of rules, I asked my friend, like, what are some rules? And some of hers were like way too practical, like they weren't even funny. And I was like, totally, but like, what's funny about that? And so one of the ones that she gave me that I thought was really funny is a nightclub DJ and a wedding DJ are not interchangeable. And that's the way she phrased it. And I was like, that leads me to so many questions. I want to know exactly what happened at that terrible wedding with a nightclub DJ. So yeah, it was kind of a collaboration with a friend who has a foot in the wedding industry, while also being something that, I knew that one of the rules was don't find yourself alone with a groomsman. Particularly, for Emma, who's had a history with bad encounters. So she, that was going to be foreshadowing. And so it was fun to create the list. Some of it was plot specific and some of it was just for jokes.
Emma's got quite a unique view on weddings because of her mother. Talk a little bit about layering in that mother's relationship with what a marriage and wedding really are.
Basically, Emma's mother has been married 16 times. She's on her 16th wedding. And what was important to me is that I kind of landed on it in later edits that it's not that Amma therefore doesn't believe in love. She doesn't believe in the piece of paper, which I think is it's something that a lot of people can relate with, especially nowadays, is, like, I don't have to be married to my person to know that they're my person. So for Amma, she has seen her mother go through complete love affairs with people that she's truly loved, and some of them have lasted so much longer than others. Some of them have been 2 months. And so for Amma, she kind of gets a sense that, like, even if you fall in love with someone, things will end. So, and I think that's a real fear that a lot of people have. So for Amma, that's informed her that, like, she's been around 16 different weddings at this point. And so that definitely impacted why she wanted to become a wedding planner. But she has seen that, like, weddings can be completely successful and it has no bearing on the marriage, or weddings can be a catastrophe and the marriage is just fine. So she is able to separate the two. And I kind of, since I know you're a Buffy fan, there's a line from Xander and Anya's wedding where Anya's or before the wedding, because the wedding doesn't happen, where Anya's concerned about getting married, and Xander kind of, like, tells her, like, the marriage is not the wedding, and so it, like, they separated the two, and it made Anya feel better that, like, even if all of their relatives and her demons came together and just really ruined the wedding, their marriage may still be fine. And so it's something that I kind of plucked from my my very formative education from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
There are so many fandom references in this book. It's just a delight as a nerd.
Yeah.
How much fun was it for you to kind of sneak in these little Easter eggs for all the nerds out there?
Sometimes people say, I love that Easter egg you snuck in from such and such. And I'm like, oh, wow. like it either didn't, it was so subconscious for me, or like, possibly that's something that's not necessarily from your fandom. I'm not even in your fandom. For my fandoms that I'm in, it's definitely been very fun to sneak in Easter eggs. I'm in the Hermione fandom, which is Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger, and I am in the Reylo fandom, which is Kylo Ren and Rey from Star Wars, and so many other fandoms, but those are the ones that I write for. So yeah, sneaking in fandom moments and references, while also hopefully not being overt, was very fun to kind of pepper it in.
You got your start with writing through fan fiction. What did you learn from that experience of doing specifically with fan fiction that helped you out when you were publishing this novel?
I never considered fan fiction to be like a stepping stone. Like, I'll start posting online and see if I'm any good at it, just to then transform into a published writer. But it did give me confidence that I would not have normally had to pursue writing full time. So I really enjoyed from fan fiction kind of learning, like, what works and what doesn't, what readers look for and what they don't, and kind of getting to play in another writer's sandbox for a little while, and kind of discover my tone and my voice before trying it out on my original characters. So that's definitely, and of course the friendships you make in fandom are just, they're my closest friends today, with the people who I met through my fandoms.
And that includes your good old buddy, Ali Hazelwood.
My good old buddy.
What did you learn from her and watching her go from fan fiction to published author that's, like, everybody's talking about? What did you learn from her experience that helped you make this transition yourself?
She never expected all of her fandom followers to come with her. and she had a and she would argue that they didn't, that she, you know, she would say that, like, you know, only expect 10% of your fandom followers to come with you over there, because they're just because they like what you're doing doesn't mean that they'd like anything you're doing. And so that was a good way to kind of keep my head on straight about things. Like, I have fan fictions that have done extremely well, and like the number of people who have read them, like you can see those stats and it's very impressive, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean it translates. People, you know, readers want something specific most of the time. So I would say from Ali, what Ali really gave me was the perspective of someone who gets tossed in the pool and just learns how to swim and meets other drowning people in the process. And so she has a lot of, you know, like, this happened to me and I didn't expect it to happen to me at all, and like, here's what I would have done differently, and maybe I would have researched it if I was, you know, went to college and did an MFA program for writing, and I had all these contacts who knew exactly how something was going to work. And so I was able to kind of come into certain situations with more knowledge because of Ali's experiences and what she'd shared with me, which is really great. I'd say that was kind of what I definitely learned from her.
And Ali also kind of set a precedent that you benefited from with cover arts. Talk a little bit about how you got your cover art to be someone that you'd work through fan fiction.
Yes, Ali was very lucky to be able to ask for Lilith, who had done a lot of reylo fan art in the reylo community and was well known. And so Lilith does all of her covers, she's so fabulous. And I have a fandom artist named Nikita Jobson, who we did not work on each other's stuff exclusively, but she would draw art for my fanfics that's just absolutely stunning. And then sometimes she would draw art that she just felt like drawing, and there was nothing, it wasn't tied to a fanfic. So like, sometimes I would just write the fanfic based on the fan art. So it was this very tit for tat type of relationship in a way. And I was so happy that my US publisher wanted to capitalize on that in a way. You know, I told them, I was like, I don't know, she's extremely good, and can take notes on things. Like, she, you know, she's worked on commercial things before, so but more than that, like, she, you know, people will recognize her work. And I think that was such a big part. I mean, so many people have such fabulous things to say about the cover and the, you know, and how it, I don't know, it's just so good. People will pick up the book based solely on the cover, and I think that's such a strong marketing tool.
You also write in musicals, so rank writing of fan fiction, novels, and musicals, and like your favorites.
I will say novels right now is number one. You know, it's all like mood and where you are as a creator. And I feel like I've only written one musical, and I'd love to write more, but writing for theater is such a collaboration, so much more so than novel writing and fan fiction. And I mean, I play well with others, but during the pandemic, trying to get people together was impossible. And I feel like live theater, creating for theater, requires so much money before you can get it in front of an audience a lot of the time. And so much of that money comes from people in power in theater. So the same gatekeeping that there is in publishing applies to theater, applies to everything. And I feel like it's so much more freeing to write, particularly fan fiction, because there's no, you know, real gatekeepers at the top. But in publishing, you can create a product and be happy with it without getting a single other person involved. And, you know, even if you did fine in group projects as a kid, like there's still something nice about like, I don't have to hear notes about this. I don't have to wait on someone else to do their job before I can do my job. Which was a hard part about theater sometimes, or you don't feel like someone's waiting on you to do your job. And of course, that all applies kind of to my current experience in publishing. Like now, obviously, I have deadlines. So like there will be someone waiting on me to do my job before they can do theirs. But it just feels different. It's you are the god of this universe, whereas there will always be multiple gods in a theater production. And so I would say my ranking right now is novel writing, fan fiction, and playwriting. To answer the direct question you asked that I wandered around.
I mean, you got to process things sometimes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about Amma is she processes other people by their donut selections.
Yes. To donut or not to donut. Yeah.
I want a donut so bad reading
I
this
know.
book. It was an attack every few pages. So talk about so Amma has this theory that donuts say a lot about people.
Yeah.
Talk about developing that and what donut you like the most and what that says about you.
I would say Amma definitely, she judges her couples that she does their weddings for. She always brings donuts to everything, every client meeting, every vendor meeting. And you know, one of the things about Elliot is that he doesn't really like processed sugar. So she doesn't know even what to do with him about that. But for her couples, she kind of likes to judge, like, you know, which, you know, are they stress eating? Are they, are they maybe dieting? And because she's seen her mother diet for certain weddings, and she just has an idea of how that affects your entire psyche. And then, of course, Amma would have experienced maybe some grooms who would prefer their brides not to have more than one donut while we're sitting here. And she learns a lot about that couple. So I think she uses donuts as a kind of a barometer for her couples, and kind of figures out like who they are and what they value about each other too. I think Amma's favorite donuts are my favorite donuts, which is chocolate old fashioned and a maple bar. I like to have both. They're like a chaser for each other. And I like to have the chocolate old fashioned. So chocolate old fashioned are the ones, or old fashions are the ones that have like a circle, and then it's almost like the outer circle, like a Saturn situation, like has like broken into smaller pieces. It's like it was together and then it like broke apart into little chunks. So I like to pull off all the little chunks until there's just a ring, and then I'll eat the ring. I have a very specific process of how I like to do it, and then I'll finish with the maple bar.
Elliot, who is, I'll put it this way. Elliot is the superior bloom florist in fiction. I will say that. Take with that what you will, whatever shade you want to take that from. But Elliot has all these tattoos. So talk a little bit about the research into the floral tattoos that Elliot Bloom has on his body.
Yeah. So Elliot has 6 tattoos. He basically, when we meet him, I should say, and when we meet him, we start to learn that he likes to get tattoos of extinct or rare flowers. And I mean, why not? So that I kind of took, for him, I personally don't have any tattoos and I have nothing against them, but I'm one of those people who will overthink, and like I'm like, what do I want on my body forever? And it's like I don't I don't have children. I don't have a husband. So like what feels like forever to me, and some things just don't land. Like I wanted a Tinkerbell tattoo for a while, and I'm like, I still fucking love Disney and Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, but you know, it's not necessarily what I want on my body at all times. I know I have friends who have Harry Potter tattoos that they regretted getting after JKR came out as a bad person. So it's, you know, little things like that where it's like I don't think I'd ever regret a tattoo, but like what do I want on my body? And so I kind of approached, I thought Elliot could have a similar approach, that when he starts to work with flowers, that he kind of learns so much about them, and when he learns about extinct flowers, that's something really interesting to him, that they're no longer in the world or no longer available to him, but he can have them with him in a way, ones that he wishes that he could work into arrangements or just care for. So he has 6 tattoos when we meet him of extinct or rare flowers. And for me, you know, it's easy to just Google a list, extinct or rare flowers. And like, but it was fun to also get like an idea of like, you know, what their backstories are. And like, so hard to find what they look like, because some of them, they went extinct before the camera was invented. So it's like, there's just drawings of them. There's 1 or 2, I think it's I'm going to butcher this, the Valerinelia affinis, where it's like, it kind of looks a little bit like baby's breath, but like, I think there is 1 drawing in existence. And you're like, I guess that's it. I guess that's the one. At least 1 drawing that was dated back when it like existed. One of them is the Franklinia flower, because it's from something that they called the Benjamin Franklin tree, because, you know, and just like learning that little history, just all these little things that I found interesting enough that Elliot would probably find interesting too.
Are there any runner-up flowers that didn't quite make the cut?
There is one. There are so many flowers that are so ugly that I'm like, that is a fascinating story. I would never want that on my body. There's one, I really have to look it up because people have asked me this before, and I have to, I don't remember the name of it, but it's like, it looks like a little ghost, like it's like an upside down bloom, and he's like, and like there's like a space between the mouth and a space for the eyes, and he's like, and it's just this white thing. And I'm like, that's weird and cool, but like when you think of like, I'm tattooing myself with flowers, you know, like it wasn't gonna make the list. And there were other ones that were just like, you look at it and you're like, as someone who maybe, for me, not so much into botany, into floristry, I look at it and I say, that's a flower, you know. And so I'm just like, it doesn't spark for something that I would want on my body, or I would want on my hot tattooed florist's body.
This book is set in Sacramento, which is where you're from. Talk a little bit about the experience of kind of making your hometown a character, and also getting to give Ali Hazelwood the tour of all the spots.
The tour was great. So Sacramento has always been such an interesting place to me because it is the state capital of California, but like no one cares. It's kind of like Tallahassee, Florida. You're like, sure. But like, that's not why I'm going to Florida, right? That's not why you go to California. So I grew up, I spent pretty much my whole life in Sacramento, and I went to elementary school, high school, and finished college there. And you know, there's so much more media coming out, including Sacramento nowadays. I think Greta Gerwig did a fabulous job putting Sacramento back on the map with Lady Bird. She went to my high school, and like, she captured the experience perfectly. And so she you know, she really highlighted and lifted Sacramento, and I almost kind of took that as permission to do the same, that people would find it interesting. So for me, when I write fan fiction, usually if I'm writing Harry Potter fan fiction, you're writing the Hogwarts Castle, or you're writing Diagon Alley. You know, you have this very specific place that's going to be a setting, and you know it extremely well. So when I was kind of writing original for the first time, and like any reylo fanfics that I did that didn't take place in a galaxy far, far away, they're called AUs, alternate universes. I generally put them in New York because I knew that very well. Like if I wanted a big city, that's where I would put it. So when I wanted to place Forget Me Not, I decided it would be nice to place it in my hometown, even just as a place to say it was. And then eventually, you know, I'm halfway through the book and I'm like, okay, I got to count the number of blocks she's walking because I have to make sure that it's accurate. And like, I have those little details that I need. I do that when I write Harry Potter fan fictions. If I mention a potion, I actually use the correct ingredients that are listed. And you know, so I need the small details to be correct. And so I was able to do that so much more easily with Sacramento because I know it. And that was really, it ended up being, like you said, a character. And I thought that was a great love letter. I very much loved being able to talk about Sacramento, and now other people talk about Sacramento. And I'm just really excited to introduce Ali Hazelwood and others to Sacramento. She hilariously visited on a summer day that would normally be 110 degrees, and it was 86. And she was like, I love Sacramento. And I'm like, fuck off. You know, like that, like, yeah, it's great. I'm so glad that you're here for the nice weather. I truly am. Don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, tell everyone it's great. Please do.
Sacramento kind of showed you a little love back with the Sacramento magazine
Yes.
spread and these awesome photos that they took.
Yeah.
Talk about getting to live your historical fiction dreams in that photo
That
shoot.
was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. I posted them on my Instagram if you have not seen them, but basically they were going to send me to a photographer for this feature they were going to do about me. And like I'd say like a week before the photo shoot, the magazine art director was like, do you have any long flowy dresses? And I was like, oh, like I was about to respond, and then he starts sending me like romance book covers, and I'm like, oh. I was like, I mean, not like on me. And then unfortunately, I did have a ball gown that I wore to the Tony Awards one year on me. And so I was like, I mean, I'll bring one option. I'm slightly uncomfortable because I thought for a second, I was like, does he think that all romance books are Fabio covers? Like, you know, like I was confused as to what the purpose was. And then, you know, the photographer told me like, I've been tasked to shoot you like a romance cover. And I said, great, let's have fun with it. And we spent like 30 minutes in various poses because we were both having so much fun. He was like, lift your finger like that again. And, you know, it was just like, it ended up being so hilarious to me. And it turned out great. You know, it's clearly what I was concerned about is like, does it look like, I hope it looks like a stunt and not like a look how cocky this girl looks. You know, like I wanted it to look like a stunt or a gimmick, you know, and I'm so glad that came across. So it was hilarious. I love those pictures. They're my glamour shots now.
It's hilarious and I love it.
Yeah.
And another little tidbit about you from your website is that you know the name of every Buffy episode as long as you just give you a number. So we're gonna test you.
I hope I'm right. I've been practicing because I knew someone was gonna do it. So we're gonna see.
Okay, let's go.
And
Season
you can
3,
okay.
episode 16.
Doppelgangland.
Very good.
Okay.
Season 7, if it'll
Okay.
work. Episode 7.
Conversations with Dead People.
You're real freaking good.
Those I'm not
more,
saying you're
just to
giving
make
me
sure.
easy ones, but like thank God.
And season 2, episode 20.
That is Go Fish.
It
Season
is
21 and 22 are becoming part 1 and 2. Yeah.
very good. I was
Oh.
like, maybe I'll stop. No, you're
No.
You're
If you gave me
legit.
give me a season 5 because I know I'll get it wrong. Even though it's my favorite season, but like when I actually try to like test myself on this, I always stop in season 4 and like never make it past.
okay. Season 5, episode 7.
That's Fool for Love.
It is.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to pick the love one because this is
I
a
know.
romance book.
I know. Well, and also I know that they structured their series so that almost every episode 7 is like a penultimate episode, like a turning point, like an inciting incident episode. I know that because I was a Freak fan.
Nerd.
Nerd alert.
So I already know that you have a book on the way for a
Mhm.
second book, but it was actually the first book that
Yes.
you wrote. So talk a little bit about how that came to be and what we can expect from your second book.
Basically, what before Ali Hazelwood's The Love Hypothesis came out, she encouraged me to do what she did, which is take the fanfic that could most easily be translated into traditional fiction with a lot of work, obviously, but and to start playing with it essentially. So I took one of my reylo fan fictions and started playing with it. I edited it quite a bit. I added like 20,000 words to it and like gave it way more weight and flesh and really took a lot of the Star Wars out of it. And I ended up getting my agent with that fanfic primarily because she'd read it as a fanfic and was like, yes, which is just so great. And like, I won't diminish like the fact that I got an agent, but like she'd read the fic and I think that is just fabulous. And so before we even started sending it to publishers, she let me know that she was pregnant, and because she's in the UK, she gets hella maternity leave. So she was going to be out for like 6 months. And so I said, okay, let me write my second book. And when I kind of told her, because I knew from Ali's experience, The Love Hypothesis was the first book that she sent out to publishers, but it actually took about 6 to 9 months for anyone to pick it up. And of course, when someone said I'm interested, then of course like 3 other people were like, well, of course, then I'm interested too, so she did have a great situation once that situation arose. But so I knew that just because I have a book doesn't mean I shouldn't start working on the next one. So I started working on what became Forget Me Not, and my agent was very good about letting me know, like, this sounds very good. It sounds like it has a solid hook. It sounds like it could be very commercial. And she was very clear that like she loved the other book, the first book. Like she clearly wanted to work with me because of the other book. But this Forget Me Not book sounded possibly more relatable because a lot of people know weddings. They've either been to a wedding or had their own wedding. And the first book, the other book, was about musicians in a New York orchestra. So the good thing is that my publishers were interested in both. They just did want to put Forget Me Not first. And I agree. It's there's nothing wrong with the book that will be book 2, but it is not everyone knows how to play a violin or a cello. So like why would I think that's something that would interest me? So that was it'll be a great second book for people who are already fans of mine, and it won't be as hard to pull an audience for it, basically, as the publishing whatnot of it. So it is called Not Another Love Song, and it is out next summer. Should be July again, but I don't have all the specific facts. And I just can't wait for the people who read it as a fan fiction to get to meet the characters again and kind of see the ways that it's changed. Because I know that Ali had a great time with, people feel like they're being seen when the thing that they like about fandom starts being liked by a grand number of people. So like it's such a relief sometimes for fandoms that get kind of terrorized by trolls, to be like, look, we were right, this was good. So I'm excited for that to kind of join the ranks. Kate Goldbeck, who is the author of You Again, her which comes out in September, her book was also a reylo fanfic. So like between the three of us, we chat almost every day, but sometimes it's like, never again. I'm never taking a fanfic and making it original again. Like, it worked, and that's all I'll say.
Do you have book 3 in the works?
I'm working on book 3. I'm not contracted for it, so it's nothing specific that I can talk about really, because who knows if it'll ever come to be. But because book 2 is essentially done and we're just in editing now, I'm starting to play with book 3 ideas, and I'll kind of send those in soon. But yeah, I'm excited for. I like Easter eggs, so things will continue to pop up, and it's like a little fan service for people who have read all of my books by book 3. You'll see things come back around. It's exciting.
That right.
I'm excited for y'all to see the cover of Not Another Love Song. I've seen it, and I don't know when it gets revealed officially, but it's Nikita Jobson again, and it's fabulous. It's I think, as Ali Hazelwood said, it is so horny.
She really loves that phrase.
She loves it. It is so horny. Yeah.
With the true love experiment that was repeated multiple times in her review, and so I just put it out on a little shelf talker, and that was what I put on that book at the start.
Yeah. Ali Hazelwood, it is so horny.
Professional horny book connoisseur.
Yes, precisely.
Oh, good. Well, the last question we always ask, because this is literary hype, what books are you hyped about?
Yeah, I am finally reading Fourth Wing. Not finally, I mean, the thing just came out, really, like in the grand scheme of things, but like if you haven't read it, you're behind already. So I'm like at the very end of that. I'll be finishing that today probably. And I read my first Nalini Singh book, Slave to Sensation, Destiny at East City Bookshop in DC is a huge fan of hers, and so she was like, I was like, where do I start? And she goes, Slave to Sensation, and it's like from like over 10 years ago maybe, but so that was extremely sexy, and it has some sci-fi angle to it too, so it was fun to kind of get into that world. They had changelings and sci-fi stuff.
Thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Yay, it was so nice. I'm so glad that we met in person in St. Louis, and then here we are meeting online.
Online besties.
Online besties.
I mean, the best people that you meet come from the internet, right?
They're my only people that I want to meet anymore.
We keep over there, but
No.
these people are generally pretty great to meet.
Yes, precisely.
Thanks again to Julie for hanging out with me online to talk about Forget Me Not. If you want to get a hold of this book, which I highly recommend you do, the link to get it is down below, as well as where to find her on social media. And my social media is down there as well some little codes for some deals if you're interested in that kind of thing. But while you're that side of the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. It does mean a lot to me to have you along on this bookish journey with me. Until next time, thanks for watching.